I think the best way to describe Jordan when he first came, and we've talked about this before. Every day that he came into the building here was a new day for him. He was kind of relearning, the things he learned from the day before, and he has grown in the 3 years. He has grown so much with just understanding the game of football and how to play the game of football, let alone executing, the offense, right? Just learning how to play, just learning how to take a big body and move it around differently than what he was used to. And like I said, he's come a long way in his development and his growth. I thought there were some really good things yesterday by him. He's a big man. Obviously, he's strong, and when he is 100% accurate on what he's doing on that particular play, it's hard for defenders to get around him, whether it's a pass block or a run block when he's right. So, he's still a work in progress. He's still like a ball of clay that we're shaping and molding and making into a left tackle.
Hey, Doug, what did you make of your wide receivers last night? And going forward, how do you see that position shaping up?
Again, I thought these guys, both in the run and pass game, played physical. We made some plays down the stretch. I thought Hightower on that 4th and 4, 4th and 5 came up big for us with that catch, and of course Travis Fulgham, for the 42-yard touchdown. Greg Ward picked up some big third downs for us. And these guys will just continue to get better, and we just got to continue to keep their development coming. It's one of those things when you play with some young players, you kind of crawl before you can run, and that's what we're going to have to do. But these guys are talented. Carson's excited to work with them as we get the rest of the guys healthy and back out on the field.
And hello, everybody. This is Johnny Ulecka and Phil Stifel and one of our All About the Birds writers, Sam. Don't call me Scott Steiner. This is episode 47 of All About the Birds. We got a lot of stuff to break down. Week 5 matchup with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The 3-0 Pittsburgh Steelers, because they did have a bye week last week. What Doug was talking about with Jordan Mailata, and I want to get your guys' input, especially you, Phil, because I know you were kind of out on him early in the off season. We discussed that, but what are your? We'll go over everyone's feelings. What are your feelings on Mailata and what Doug had to say about it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm on the record as saying that Jordan Mailata the experiment was over last year, in my opinion. I was done. I was off on Jordan Mailata. There's no going back on what I said. But last week, I mean, he impressed me. I mean, he made a bunch of mistakes in pass protection. Definitely some stunts and definitely some moves that were made on him that were, rookie mistakes. And you could tell that he's only been playing football for 2.5, 3 years. But on the flip side of the equation, he definitely impressed a lot in run blocking and in his composure in being able to handle the pressure of a big game, Sunday Night Football, a lot of eyes on him. So as his first start, as his first extended, amount of playing time, I mean, you can't be anything but excited about him. But we're going up against a Pittsburgh Steelers team that has a much different defensive front, much more talented players. I mean, they've got the highest graded, according to Pro Football Focus, the highest graded defensive end in TJ Watt. They got a different type of a scheme in a 3-4 defense. So it'll be really interesting to see how he does this week. But he's definitely shown that he could take potentially a step forward in his development after last week.
Sam?
Yeah, I think he's a project. I was shocked by on Sunday night, to be honest with you. I mean, his first start at left tackle, I thought he was going to beat up. I thought he held his ground pretty well. I mean, obviously he had that false start, 3rd and 1, which was costly, but overall, I was happy with how he played, and I look forward to see how he does the rest of the way and see his development and his progression. Like Doug said, he's a ball of clay.
And watching him, and even rewatching some of the film and the highlights and everything, he's tremendous in the run game. There was one play that he pushed Kerry Hyder Jr. He literally pushed him from his left tackle spot all the way over where Kelsey was, and then he went up to the second level. It was one of Miles Sanders' runs. He got a decent gain, I think 6-7 yards. But the one thing and the stat that I've really looked at that was, a little bit surprising because I didn't think he played that great. But in the pass blocking, 0 sacks, 0 QB hits allowed, and 1 QB pressure with a 75.2 pass block grade. Lane Johnson has 76.4 grade. Now I know Lane Johnson struggled in and out of the game, but for someone making his first start, only having 20 snaps in the NFL, in an NFL game before that, I thought, I know he wasn't going up against the Solomon Thomases and the Nick Bosas, and but still,
you look at the three main guys that are the pass rushers for the Steelers. You got Watt, Dupree, and Tuitt. They've got 23 quarterback hits amongst the three of them. They've got about 9 sacks between the three of them. So it's a totally different scheme we're going up against this week. So in my opinion, if he can at least stay level with what he did last week, that's almost a win, because the difference between the 49ers front 4 without Nick Bosa and the front 7 of the Steelers, because of that, I don't know if you want to call it a front 3 and then linebacker. It's kind of a different scheme with that 3-4 defense. It's a totally different ball game what he's going up against this week. So almost if he just does equally as good, that is a huge jump forward, not just for him, but for the future of this team. Because if he can progress throughout the rest of the year, if he can just stay at that left tackle position and gain the next 12 weeks worth of experience, we'll know what we have going into next year. So, I wrote him off, but it's time to start pulling that back and maybe admitting that I was wrong on that.
Yeah, and you said Bud Dupree, you said TJ Wright. I think he's going to see a lot of, the Bud Dupree, but Stephon Tuitt, but you also forgot Cam Hayward.
Yeah. I was just going off. I looked them up, the top 3 guys on their team with the quarterback hits. I wasn't even looking at the sack number. I was looking at the quarterback hits because, Carson has taken a lot of hits so far this year. And, we definitely want him to, stay upright and stay in one piece as long as we possibly can.
Yeah. And, their defense, they're one of the best defenses because not only do they, you have the Bud Dupree and the TJ Watt for the offensive line to worry about, because with the way the offensive line is, it's not like what we started the offseason with. So you have a lot of new faces, a lot of young faces, and you got a team like the Steelers with all these guys that can rush the passer, but they like to blitz, and they like to blitz guys all over the place, whether it's their inside linebackers, Vince Williams, and you have guys like Minkah Fitzpatrick and some secondary players and their safeties. So they come from all different angles and everything. And with a 3-4, I'm not sure the Eagles played a 3-4 yet. I think they've only played 4-3 defenses. So
this year, yes.
Yeah.
Especially with a young offensive line, this is where Kelsey has to take control and be able to point out for these young guys to kind of know who's getting what, because they can do a lot of different stunts, a lot of different blitzes, and that's where it's going to be super key for these guys to pick up the right guys to keep Carson upright.
Yeah, I think this could be a big Miles Sanders game. I mean, Doug's really going to have to commit to the run and stick with it. With that pass rush, they're going to have to protect Carson.
Yeah, the other thing is, I don't know if you guys agree with me on it, on his pass blocking being a little bit weaker than his run blocking at this point. But the thing with the Steelers defense is that they give up a lot more touchdowns. So 6 of the 7 touchdowns they've given up this year have been through the air. Okay. They've only given up about 160 yards. I'm trying to find my notes. As always, notes are totally unorganized. No surprise here. But they've given up like 160 yards only total rushing, but well over 700 yards passing. So for the Eagles to be successful this week offensively, they're going to have to throw the ball. It's going to be in Carson's hands. Their front 7 is going to stop Miles Sanders, Corey Clement, Boston Scott, more so than they have been stopped. So he's going to be in that pass blocking, position a lot more this week than last week. So we've always talked about this year, Doug Peterson's play calling, he needs to run the ball more, etc. Well, this is not the team to actually run the ball more against. So it's really going to be interesting to see how he handles, being in that pass block. I mean, this might be a game where Carson drops back 40 plus times, maybe even closer to 50, so that's going to be a concern with Mailata moving forward this week. Can he handle pass blocking 60% of the time this week?
And I know, like with the whole pass blocking, but they have to do what they've been doing with Carson. But last week is rolling him out, letting him kind of get. I feel like he gets more comfortable that way. Yeah, he may run the ball a little bit. He's running the ball a lot more than he has been. But with the pass, I think that they will pass the ball a lot more. But they one of these games they need to rely on Miles Sanders, whether giving him a little bit more than what they give him last week, 13 carries. So you have to rely on him to be able to run the ball. But Pittsburgh does have a good run.
Yeah, I found my number. They've given up 162 yards, 2.7 yards per carry this year so far. So that's pretty stout of a defense. I mean, they've got 3 games versus 4 like everybody else, but that's under 60 yards a game. That's like what, 52, 55 yards a game. But, that's not going to be where we're successful this week.
And that's you look at the numbers. Numbers are a little skewed. I'll get into that a little bit later. I know they played. I think they started with the Giants, and I know Saquon Barkley and certain players, but their numbers are a little skewed. Like I said, I'll get into that a little bit later. But running the ball will be tough. You're not going to be able to get the amount of yardage that you got against Cincinnati. But even that, you didn't keep running the ball. So there's things that Doug needs to do and get a little bit more creative. And I feel like that's what Doug's going to have to do to be able to be successful in this kind of a game going against a team who's 3-0.
Well, moving on then from Mailata, talking about Doug and what he needs to do, we have to move forward with the rest of that, video that we shared about what he talked about with Hightower and Fulgham and the young wide receivers that we have this week. Alshon, Djax, they practiced, limited today. Most likely they're not going to be ready. Quez Watkins is still a little questionable. He might be ready to play. Now, obviously, he talked to Doug Peterson about Ortega-Whiteside. Will be ready to play. Most likely will still be a big part of the offense, supposedly. I'm not sure why. But what would you guys like to see moving forward at least with Fulgham and Hightower from what we saw week 1? And what do you think with who's available should be out on the field this week?
I'm intrigued with Fulgham. I was impressed that catch. I know he was open down the sideline, but that's a play Nelson Aguilar couldn't make last year.
Tell me you didn't see that play developing, and when did we get Nelson Aguilar back? I know that popped into my head right away. I just thought it was Nelson running down the sideline for a half a second there.
Yeah, he's got the number 13.
Yeah, and it looked like him, and I'm like, Nelson's going to drop it, and he didn't. And I'm like, oh, it's because it's not him. I'm like, who is he again? But yeah, Johnny.
No, I like looking at the whole talking about Whiteside. It's just with what Fulgham did for you. 2 catches, 57 yards, a touchdown. But even with the catches, but the one play I know I retweeted it of him blocking. He literally took the defensive back into the end zone, and I feel like his size, strength, what he can do, and even a guy like Hightower had that huge catch
on 4th down,
the touchdown to Fulgham. So Those guys are showing you something. And like I said, I think Alshon and Deshaun are another week away. That's kind of my guess on kind of what I'm seeing with the injury reports. But what Fulgham and what Hightower has showed you, and even Carson having confidence, and they even showed when Carson threw the ball to Fulgham, he was right up against coverage. So he threw it to him. He trusted him. So I feel like working off of that, I think you got to let Fulgham play. For what he showed you, he's got to play. So Ortega-Whiteside.
So who are your 3 starting wide receivers then this week?
This week, it's going to be Fulgham. It's going to be Greg Ward, your favorite. And it's going to be Hightower.
Okay. And how is the team, or not the team, the fans going to respond when Ortega-Whiteside is starting over Hightower out there this week or Fulgham? Because honestly, based off of Doug's comments, he's going to be out. If he's healthy, he's going to be in the starting lineup, Ortega.
But how does the – sorry.
No, go ahead.
How does that work with – you're going to have Ward and Ortega-Whiteside out there? They're both more like slot receivers. I just don't see how that works.
Whiteside was originally drafted, in my opinion, to be the Alshon Jeffries replacement, the big-bodied guy that can catch the 50-50 balls. So hypothetically, you can put him on the outside. Unfortunately, he just has how many catches this year? How many catches does he have in his career? So you really don't know what you have in him. So honestly, like Johnny said, it should be Fulgham, Hightower, and Ward is the starting three. But I just have this sneaky feeling, excuse me, that Ortega-Whiteside's going to be starting over Jonathan Hightower, because we've learned with Matt Collins in the 3-year experiment there that the team just will not give up on these draft picks and will not, move on when it's obvious that it's time to move on.
And I feel that it wouldn't be, I don't know, it's not going to surprise me just because of what you've seen with the coaches and who they've put out there. And it's more of what we see in practice than really what you see out on the game field, which to me surprises a little bit. It should be a little bit of both. But, Ortega-Whiteside is going to be in there. He's not going to get open. He's not going to catch any balls. And it's going to be –
Or he's going to come out and have 7 catches for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns.
My thing is, what happened to the Whiteside that we saw in that preseason game against the Ravens? It disappeared.
You all get overhyped about preseason guys. The Paul Turner syndrome. You all do it. Not me.
Yeah,
I wasn't hyped over Hightower or Quez Watkins because they had great training camps. You can't get excited over what you see in the preseason and camp because it's not real game action. It's not up against number ones. So you can't get excited about that stuff.
Well, the coaches seem to get excited because they seem to be playing these players who are –
the coaches aren't doing a very good job at this point.
A former second-round pick that really isn't showing you anything, and a guy who was a 6th-round pick for the Lions, made a pretty spectacular play that keeping himself in balance, in bounds, that Whiteside hasn't really shown you.
Yeah. There's probably a lot of pressure from Howie, too.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, I think there's a lot of pressure from Howie, especially with him being a 2nd-round pick. I think Howie does have a lot to say and that type of thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. Howie is licking his chops. We'll get into Gennard Avery later. But, yeah, he's licking his chops that he actually got something right finally. But Fulgham, Hightower, their success last week, the little success they had, because we're getting all excited about them. They both had, 2 catches? So let's not, get too over the top on it. But a lot of that success has come from Carson Wentz moving the ball a little bit, running the ball a little bit the last 2 weeks. And he denies that he wants to run the ball more or he looked for it to be run more. But he definitely seems more confident as a quarterback last week or so, now that the pocket's being moved, now that he's running the ball more. He looks almost a little bit more like his self when he's running the ball. I mean, I don't think it's any coincidence personally.
And the thing was, he's on pace for, I think, over 400 yards.
What, rushing?
Carson Wentz.
Well, that's all based off of last week's numbers and all. So
yeah, but I'm just saying, he's on pace for that, and he hasn't had that many rushing yards since when? 2017. So yeah, I'm not saying
it's definitely Doug was asked about it. If it's because he's healthy. I mean, and obviously he's like, well, it's not. It's just the way the game flow. He uses that term game flow all the time. But, it obviously makes a difference if he's healthy. This is his first offseason that he's been healthy for the whole offseason, since ever, because he was even hurt coming out of college a little bit. So, it definitely makes a difference there being healthy, Carson Wentz. And like I said, moving the ball, moving the pocket, not necessarily running the ball, but being able to slide from side to side and extend plays. It makes a major difference when he's confident like that.
Well, that one play to Boston Scott that they wound up taking the holding penalty, get a first down anyway. That
That was all Carson Wentz that play.
Yeah.
And that's the Carson Wentz of old that we expect to see. And, I'm not sure where the lack of confidence in the first couple of weeks was with Carson, but a little bit in the game against the Bengals and a lot more this week, you saw some of that confidence coming back. And, you saw him look down. That pass to Fulgham downfield, that was probably the first play I remember designed to go downfield since Djax week 1 last year to Washington. All the other deep balls that we saw, the few that there were last year, were all broken plays for the most part. Anybody? Is this on? Hello?
No, but yeah, the thing was, Carson's not – the first week it was just deep, trying to get the home run. Now it's more – it's more what they were doing last year. And I know another thing, I'm not sure if you guys saw it, but one of our other writers, Max, had a post on Twitter that I saw that Carson and different wide receiver groups, I guess not the best wide receiver groups, the last, 2016, 2018, 2019, and 2020, there was 8 games that he's had, subpar or like outcast wide receivers, and he's 7-1 in those games.
Right. I think Carson's at his best when he's not thinking about it. He's just going out there and making plays, being an athlete. And you just see him when he takes what the defense gives him, the game flow just works so much better than when he's out there and he's just dropping back in the pocket.
Yeah, we touched on that a couple episodes ago, that when they weren't running the up-tempo offense and they're just getting part of the natural flow of the game, that it definitely makes a difference. And he definitely seems more confident that way. No,
and the other thing, speaking of like confidence with Doug Peterson and what he said, one of the things that he mentioned, and I know you said it, Phil, through text with me, was the whole Corey Clement. He's the 4-minute man. Speaking about confidence, does he have confidence in Miles Sanders being in the game late if he's putting Corey Clement in?
It makes that comment that he's the 4-minute, 2-minute man. So Corey Clement this year, he's had 11 rushes in 3 games for a whole 30 yards. That's 2.7 yards a carry. He's got 2 catches for a whopping Greg Ward 2 yards. Okay, what has Corey Clement done that Miles Sanders hasn't? There's literally zero reason for Corey Clement to be on the field. I can make a case at Boston Scott. He's got 18 carries for 60 yards. At least that's 3.3 yards a carry. He's got 5 catches for 43 yards, in receptions and all. So why would Doug Peterson say that Corey Clement is his 4-minute man? It boggles the mind.
Right. I'm thinking he's trying to protect Miles Sanders there.
When you have a weapon like Miles Sanders and your back's up against the wall, we just want to just talk last week specifically. You're 0-2-1 last week. You're coming down to the crunch of a game. You need to win. It's a must-win game. And you pull Miles Sanders, if it's to protect him, what are you protecting him for? You lose that game, there is no tomorrow. Like if you go 0-3-1, your season, I know the NFC East is terrible right now, but your season's pretty much statistically over at 0-3-1. So there's no point at this point of the season with their record and where they stand to protect anybody on this team.
Right, I completely agree. I'm just trying to get inside the mind of Doug as to why you want to play your best offensive weapon late in the game.
You want to protect him, then take him out in the second quarter. Take him out for a drive or two in the second or third quarter. You don't take him out late in the game.
Yeah, it makes I
agree.
All right, we got a chance to do the offensive segment went way longer than my estimated time frame there. So I'm going to play a quick video here of Jim Schwartz, guys, and then we're going to dive right into what this says here.
Hey, Jim, we've talked before about the disconnect between how you guys view Nate Gary and maybe how the fan base does. With that in mind, how do you think he's played so far this year, and what has he done to earn the amount of snaps he's gotten so far?
Yeah, you know me. I'm not a big tell you how a guy is playing. But
but Nate's been a very solid player for us and has helped us win a lot of games. And I would just caution this. There's probably a lot of plays that people outside of our building think might be his fault, that he just happens to be the closest guy when someone else made a mistake. And I think they end up blaming him a lot of times. You know, he's sort of the closest guy to some plays. And, you know, I mean, that's just sort of the way the ball bounces. We just need to be more efficient overall and more consistent overall. And he just plays his part in it. But, you know, so I think that anytime that you have people outside the building that grade players, you can get things like that. I tend to try to keep our evaluations in-house and, you know, and just work on improving in
Yeah, I had to cut that off. I couldn't watch any more of that. That was a disaster of an answer to a question. What this dude sees in Nathan Geary at this point is beyond me.
It makes no sense. He's not in the certain position that you see and what we grade. We don't listen to people outside that grade. And, you know, Eagles fans aren't stupid. They know what they're looking at. They know, they watch film. They know what they're looking at. They're not, you know, he's not a great player. He's not a good player. Alex Singleton made so many more plays than Nate Geary did, and he played a lot less than him. And, you know, TJ Edwards is now out, most likely with a hamstring injury. And I know Doug said he's out for a few weeks, most likely. So Alex Singleton's going to be playing. Does one of the younger guys play? But the thing is, Nate Geary is going to be in there. They have no other options, unfortunately.
Well, you know, Eric Ebron through 3 games, the main tight end for the Steelers, has 9 catches, 113 yards, and 1 touchdown. Is there any thought process in anybody's head that thinks if Geary's the main defender, that he's not going to double each of those numbers this week? I mean, Eric Ebron can catch the ball. I mean, he's not a Kittle type, but the guy has some offense. He's got speed and he's got good hands. And was it last year or 2 years ago with the Colts where he had a really, really, really good year? He's going to have 9 catches this week. You know, I already picked him in one of my daily fantasy leagues to be my starting tight end. You know, just because of what Schwartz said about Geary.
They also have Vance McDonald, who's no pushover.
He only has a couple. He hasn't been a big part of the offense. I didn't write his numbers down because they were so minuscule so far. But he can catch the ball too. Yeah.
Yeah. Gary's a stiff. Big point blank. I mean, he can't play.
You don't respect. He's a stiff. You know. He even Jim Schwartz even tried to downplay Singleton. He's like, he's got good instincts. He's got experience from playing in Canada. But the interception wasn't even like really on him. It was because of the pressure that the D line. So he even tried to take, and then he said something about, actually, I was standing there really close to the play, and Jalen Mills is who I thought was going to intercept that play. But, you know, so he was even trying to like pull the fan excitement from Alex Singleton away because he's so hyped on Nathan Geary.
At this point, I don't see. Why don't you just throw Sean Bradley in there? Just throw someone in there.
Yeah,
exactly.
It should be Bradley. It should be Davion Taylor, and it should be Alex Singleton. They're the 3 linebackers that should see the field. Maybe a little bit of Duke Riley, but outside of that, at this point, they're the guys that should be on the field.
And we've said it before. You draft a linebacker in the 3rd round, yet he doesn't see the field at all, but on special teams here and there because he's so raw and doesn't have the experience. And that's frustrating, especially when you have the depth that you have at linebacker and the issues at linebacker, and you don't have a rookie to even go in there and step in there and basically take over for a player who isn't any good. That's the weak point for every single offense is let's attack 47. Let's attack 47.
Yeah, it's
that's going to be the focus.
Yeah, and the Steelers aren't a one-trick pony. The Steelers got James Conner, they got Juju Smith, they got Johnson. Is it Johnson, their other wide receiver? Deontay Johnson. Yeah. They got Eric Ebron, as you said, Vance McDonald, who in the past has had good games in the NFL. You know, they've Tony Snell coming out of the backfield. You know, they have a really good offense with a quarterback who's getting up there in age. But Ben Roethlisberger is a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's going to see, you know, if Nick Mullins can can pick apart Nathan Geary, what do you think Ben Roethlisberger is going to do? Ben Roethlisberger is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He is going to pull. He might be the closest person in the NFL to have as good of a beard as me. And he is going to pick apart Nathan Geary.
And the thing is, they have 3 other players who are decent too. James Washington, Jalen Samuels out of the backfield. But there's another guy, a rookie out of Notre Dame, Chase Claypool, who's basically the size of a tight end and runs like a receiver. So there's a lot of mismatches that
they are no one-trick pony.
Yeah. And their offensive line isn't a push around. Yeah, their right tackle is a young guy, but otherwise they've got veterans all along that offensive line. And Villanueva, Filer, Pouncey, DeCastro, who came back now, and then the right tackle is a weak point. But that's basically
So let's transition from the linebackers, and obviously we don't even have to focus on Nathan Geary because we know he is awful. We know those comments from Jim Schwartz are terrible. So we got like 3 points, 4 points we can all group into one conversation. Jim Schwartz first said that Kayvon Wallace isn't quote unquote the starter. He was just he's in certain packages, and Epps is in other packages, and that's why Epps got more plays, even though Kayvon Wallace started. Mills is probably the cornerback 2 for now, and even when some of these guys come back, he may stay in the cornerback position. And is there anybody better? Is anybody lived up to the hype from a off-season acquisition as Big Play Slay? Darius Slay has been as advertised. So moving into this week against a good passing team, Ben Roethlisberger's got 7 touchdowns, 1 interception, almost 800 yards passing in only 3 games. What should the secondary look like this week? Who do you guys want to see getting the majority of the snaps out there? Sam, you want to start off there?
Yeah, I want to see the rookie in there at safety, Kayvon Wallace.
I agree.
I think he's a player. I think Darius Slay is going to shut down Juju. They're going to take that matchup away. I guess Jalen would be on with Deontay Johnson or
he would be, yeah. And Deontay Johnson is a speed guy, so the double move
so
put on Mills is scary.
So that's a little nerve-wracking. And then, the problem is just all comes back to that tight end position. Whoever they threw out there, McDonald, Ebron, most likely, unless there's a personnel change for the Eagles, they're going to get picked apart there in the middle of the field.
Yeah, and for me, I want to see Kayvon out there. Marcus Epps I just don't see him as – I don't know. I have bad memories of Marcus Epps. I think he's the Nate Gary of the safety position for the Eagles right now. But, Mills, you didn't hear much of his name. He didn't play awful. He didn't play horrible. We'll see this week how he plays. But Darius Slay has been elite, absolutely elite. Only giving up 30.5 yards per game to receivers that he's covering on plays, how they measure it. Playing against Terry McLaurin, Robert Woods, A.J. Green, Deebo Samuel. He's going to have probably Juju most of the game this week. He's given you that type of cornerback play that we as fans have asked for how many years. And he's given you that. And I feel that they can try and use that to shut down Juju as much as they can. But like you said, Sam, the linebackers against the tight ends trying to figure something out with the tight end position and being able to try to stop as much as you can. And the way to stop it, as we've mentioned before on how much pressure that they've gotten, 13 sacks, 33 quarterback hits in the last 2 weeks. Pressure, that's going to help them against Big Ben. Now, Big Ben is a smart veteran, but you got to get pressure on a quarterback.
Ryan, you got to hang in there, buddy. We're going to make our picks for the game, but it'll be at the end of the show. So you got to hang in there for about 30 more minutes if you want to, 20 more minutes if you want to hear our picks.
No, I mean, Schwartz, he's not dumb. Do you think maybe he's going to bring another safety over to cover that tight end position, to double team him?
He didn't actually do anything to help Geary in the last game against Kittle. And he where are my notes? I took notes because he was asked about that. And he's like, well, just wasn't part of the scheme. It just wasn't part of the flow. He must be listening to Doug Peterson because he was talking about the flow of the game. And it just isn't the way we didn't want him to tried his best. This is his quote, tried best to stop Kittle. He didn't want to let him get those yards. It was just a tough matchup. He didn't get double teamed once. You want to talk about Zach Gertz and his 8 yards receiving last week. The 49ers he was the only real offensive weapon on the field regularly. They put a double team, a third guy blanketing coverage on him at some points. When you have a weapon and you're a defense, you take that weapon away. Jim Schwartz chooses not to. So there is literally zero confidence, in my opinion, that Jim Schwartz will do what's right and put Geary, because he's going to be out there, and you have Epps, help Geary out. It's not ideal, but you got to put more than one person on Eric Ebron if that's where, Ben Roethlisberger's looking.
Right. And
go ahead, Sam.
when Malcolm was here, I mean, he used to bring Malcolm in that box safety role, and he would take out the tight end. Even in the Super Bowl, I thought he covered Gronk pretty well outside that one touchdown.
Yeah, and the other player that I like and I want to see more of, because I think he plays really well, sure tackler is Crevon LeBlanc. And because Nicole Roby-Coleman just really isn't what we thought he was going to be. But LeBlanc always seems, when he's given a chance, shows it, but for some reason doesn't get as much playing time as we would think he would get for the type of plays that he makes. He had that big sack fumble. He's a sure tackler. He had that one where he was covering Kittle one-on-one, but again, he's a nickel cornerback trying to cover a tight end one-on-one by himself. That's really not fair to him. But I want to see more of him because he's going to be in that slot role, going against James Washington, and if they put Juju in the slot and everything, try to take him away from Slay. So I think he's going to be crucial as well. Kind of a forgotten name in that secondary.
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't think he's a forgotten name. I think people really are paying attention to what LeBlanc's doing right now. He's definitely got the support of the fans, but I think we can all agree because we pretty much play 5 defensive backs, safeties and cornerbacks. We only run 2 linebackers out there most of the time. We're in that like dime defense or whatever, but it should be McLeod. It should be Kayvon Wallace. It should be Slay, Mills, and LeBlanc. They should be the 5 guys out there getting 80% of the snaps. If you have to run a 6 cornerback out there based off of the situation, then you start talking about the other guys and all. But those 5 guys should be out there, play in and play out. And I don't think there's really much debate to that at this point. I mean, and Kayvon Wallace, he was only out there for about 20, 25 snaps. I mean, he made some rookie mistakes. I mean, everybody's going to look at when he got, he got mossed by Kittle. There was one play when Kittle went up and grabbed the ball over top of him. But size-wise, he's not a really great matchup for, Kittle and all. But that's where you got to give people that are guarding somebody like Kittle help and all. But those 5 guys, they're the 5 guys that should be out there all the time. Is there any doubt in that?
No, there's no. I wholeheartedly agree with you 100% on that because, Wallace is young, but he needs the experience. When is he going to get the experience if you're not going to put him out there? I understand he may struggle, but is he going to make less? Is he going to make more mistakes than Epps? I really don't think so. I think that's kind of be, for me, it's equal. Epps isn't a veteran. He's been in the league two years, and he was an undrafted guy, so it's not like he's some veteran in the league.
Epps can go the route of Geary and just get off my field. Yeah. We didn't touch on it. Let's transition because we got to wrap up defense talk too here for a second. But we got to talk about Gennard Avery really, really fast. I mean, Gennard Avery. I mean, for a guy that has been trashed by us, by fans everywhere, because what did we give up, a 4th round pick for him? Yep. I mean, he really showed up last week. Is that a mirage or is that really something that we can expect to see going forward in the defensive line rotation?
I think that they found like his place and what he does best and how they can kind of use him to, I don't know, disguise, but how he rushes the passer and his motor, it just doesn't stop. And, for me, I'm not going to say he reminds me exactly of this player just because he wears the same number, but he has like that Trent Cole motor. It just keeps going. He just keeps going. He's not an overly big guy like Cole, but he's not the same player.
He's not as good as Trent Cole. Let's back that up a little bit.
Saying, he has that motor, but I think that with the rotation, I think you're going to see more of this, and I think it's a good thing, especially with this defensive line and how you need it to overtake other offensive lines to kind of get this defense on the roll. What do you think?
Right. Right. And to hit on Johnny's point, I think maybe all this time Schwartz has been trying to figure out how to get him to fit into that scheme and where exactly his place is on this defensive line and how to fit him in there. I think maybe he's starting to figure that out, and we saw it on Sunday, certainly. He had 5 hits from the quarterback, 1 sack.
I think only like 16 snaps.
Yeah.
Something like
so
that.
it was definitely promising. And I really think now that Hargraves is healthy, now that Barnett is healthy, the line's getting a really good rotation. And, for all the trash we talk about Schwartz, his defensive line rotations his whole time here, when everybody's been healthy, has been really good. And, so what did we say? It was 33 quarterback hits and 13 sacks the last 2 weeks. And pretty much Fletcher Cox has been a ghost in that. So imagine if Fletcher Cox gets going. If these guys keep up this momentum, teams are not going to be able to double and triple team Fletcher Cox as much. And then that's going to open up another whole can of worms for teams to worry about once Fletcher Cox gets his momentum going. So somebody like Nathan Geary, I'm still stuck on Nathan Geary and how awful he is. Gennard Avery, somebody like him gets going, it just makes so much more, open up for the rest of the team. And that doesn't even count the fact that Vinny Curry started practicing this week. And once he's back, that's another vet on that defensive line.
And tackle plays all over the place.
Yeah. Malik Jackson, we haven't even talked about him yet in the last 2 weeks and how all of a sudden people are forgetting the big deal we gave him last year. And he played, 3 quarters before he got hurt last year. He's finally healthy. And he's probably at this point, he might not grade out better, but he's probably at this point playing better visually to me than Fletcher Cox is.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I know I've said it time and time again. I think Fletcher's playing really hurt, and how hurt he is, I don't know. But he just doesn't. He doesn't have that burst. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't think he's fully healthy. And you see him on the injury report, every single week. So he's not young. He's not a young guy either. But
he's got a big cap number to worry about.
He does. And you think about the defensive rotation. It's almost like they're going, and no matter what they do, they're just going in and picking a guy to go in there. It's almost like picking a raffle or a lottery. Speaking about that,
picking a raffle or a lottery. Let's pay the bills for a second here. So as we said last week, we finally have an official sponsor, Hemp Bomb CBD products. I'm going to hawk their products every week here. So you check out their website, hempbombs.com, promo code AATBirds to get you 20% off. On my personal Twitter page this week, I ran a contest, a like, a retweet, and make sure you're following. And I'm picking 2 random people that did it. They're going to win 2 free samples. They're each going to win a free sample. I've got more free samples to give away. We're not sure yet how I'm going to run that. I'm going to try to run a contest on Facebook. I'm going to try to run a contest on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube page. Make sure you're following us on Facebook. But our 2 winners this week for a free sample of Hemp Bomb product, I'll get it out in the mail as soon as I can. We've got Carrie. She's at Carrie the Boss on Twitter. And Klondike, I don't know if that's her name, but she's at Reimer Alicia. You both won free Hemp Bomb samples. I've got gummies. I've got oils. I've got lotions. And I got bath bombs. So make sure you go to their website, hempbomb.com. I've been using their product for 2.5, 3 years. They're fantastic. They are great. There's no comment actually there from Selena, but it's still, she's checking in. So that's great. I've been using their product for years. They've made a major difference in my life. If you ever have any questions about CBD and how it can help your life, send me a private message on Twitter at Beard and Knowledge. I'll answer any of your questions, but check them out. They're the best company there is. AAT Birds, 20% off. And on that note, let's roll into 3 keys for this week. Johnny, you want to go for your key of the week?
All righty. So the key that I have, and it kind of goes on the point that we were just talking about, keep the pressure.
On defense?
On defensive line. So on the defense, defense itself, keep the pressure. Whether the rotation and the big thing is watching Derek Barnett, how he did against Trent Williams. really gives me a lot of confidence in the type of player that hopefully he's turning a corner, a player that we kind of thought. But whether it's even blitzing, I kind of want to see Schwartz dial up a couple blitzes too against Big Ben. But that's my key is, keep the pressure.
Sam, what's your key to victory this week?
Yeah, they're going to protect Carson at all costs. That the matchup with Jordan Mailata coming back again at left tackle, it's definitely worrisome. It's going against T.J. Watt, and man, that's a tough matchup for the kid. So I mean, Doug's going to have to protect him too with his play calls. He's going to have to roll him out of the pocket, keep him out of the pocket like he did against San Francisco. It's effective. Carson plays better when he's outside the pocket. He's not thinking as much. And I know they're going to struggle to run the ball against Pittsburgh, but there still has to be a balance in that offense where Doug's still going to have to call the run plays to Miles Sanders and make sure he's getting those touches. I mean, what did he have last game? 8 carries, I believe, against San Francisco?
13 total touches or 15 total touches. It was not enough.
He should be getting 20 to 25 touches a game between,
I've been saying 25 to 30 between the rushing and the passing game.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, if you're a horse and your lead back, he needs to be the lead back and getting those carries.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to touch on your pick there for a second, Sam. It was originally what I was going to say as my key. I got another one as backup, so we'll get to that. But you said with the way, Mailata and all, it's up to Doug Peterson to call the plays, give him help. Put Perkins over there, put somebody over there to help him block. Because obviously, if you run the plays the right way or you roll him out to the right, Carson, to get him away from Jordan, you take the pressure off of Jordan by calling the right plays. I think it's a big deal. And sometimes they have too much confidence in these guys that don't have the experience to an extent where they're not going to give him the help he needs. And he's going to boom or bust. And Carson's going to get knocked out for that way. So I really think Doug Peterson is the key to your key, making it work.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
So was that your key, or
No, my next key, if that's going to be his key, my key goes around Nathan Geary, it goes around Fulgham, it goes around Alex Singleton. I don't know how to phrase it the right way, and I debated how to phrase it because the way I've come up with isn't right. It's not supposed to be don't be loyal, because saying don't be loyal doesn't sound right, but go with what works. Singleton was working, so it means don't play Nathan Geary. Fulgham and Hightower were working, so it doesn't mean you have to go back to Ortega-Whiteside. The coaches need to put the players out there that are performing the best and not the guys that they are loyal. I know loyals, I hate saying the word loyal, but the guys that they're loyal to out there.
Don't play favorites.
Don't play favorites, if you want to call it that. And they will deny that they do that up and down. But there's no other reason to describe why Ortega-Whiteside will get another opportunity or that Nathan Geary is still the starting linebacker. So go. The key to victory is go with what's working and stick to it. And that's something that this team doesn't do the last couple of years very well. Because, again, we don't have to say Ortega-Whiteside's numbers again. We don't have to talk about how bad Geary is guarding, in the pass game. It's really up to the coaches to put the right players out there and put them in the right position. And it was something we didn't get to, but on Doug Peterson or Carson Wentz, one of them was asked why it was Carson Wentz. I found it here. Why practice squad guys seem to perform better with him than, the regular guys, the big stars like the Deshaun Jackson who's always hurt or Alshon or whatever. And he said it's not that they perform better or not. He kind of, deflected that question. But what he did say is, and it really, really, locks this point in, is that the inexperienced guys or the young guys or the practice squad guys, when they're successful, it energizes the rest of the team. And he used that term, energizes the team. And you see that when Singleton made that pick or Fulgham made that big touchdown catch. It energized the rest of the team. And all of a sudden, everybody else's game stepped up a notch.
But, talking about energizing the team and everything like that, a quick point about energizing, and what about fans energizing? I know Pittsburgh's going to have 5,500 fans in the lower bowl.
Yeah.
The Eagles against the Ravens could have fans. Could that somehow energize as well? Having
Absolutely, especially the veterans. The veterans feed off those fans a lot more than the rookies do. It definitely plays a fact. 5,500 fans. I don't really know if that is enough to make a big difference, and I'm not sure what the rules are about fake crowd noise once you even have that small number, if they just have to do away with the fake noise altogether. But it definitely plays a fact. And I saw one of the Eagles sites are already trying to run a bus tour out there to get Eagles fans as part of that 5,500. So you will see some Eagles fans, I'm sure, in Pittsburgh Stadium.
I'm just saying, the reason I brought it up was just for like you said, the veterans, and just, some of them play up a notch when there's fans.
Yeah. No, it's a total true point.
I think even just seeing like a small amount of fans out there, it's going to energize them.
Yeah, and
absolutely. So so the Pittsburgh's allowed 5,500 fans. Would you be one of the 65,000 that are being allowed into Miami Stadium, even though they said they're not going to do it? The Miami mayor said that they're allowed to pack that stadium to full capacity if they'd like.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous.
Florida is on a whole another level in terms of
their governor is. We don't want to get political or anything, but they're out of control.
Yeah. Let's go on a different level and talk about some picks we made. I have the records from last week. And
I bombed as always, I'm sure, on the show. Just so you know, before anybody hears my picks on the show, I might not get all the picks right on the show, but I'm up about 4.5, 5 units. You want to know what a unit is? Tune into the fantasy and gambling show every Thursday night at 8:30. I am crushing it on FanDuel Sportsbook. I'm just not doing very well on here with my picks. I just want to throw that out there that my bank account is getting bigger. I'm just not using the money on the picks here in the show.
So last week the lock picks, I went 2-1 with an overall record now of 7-5, leader of the pack.
Of course.
Phil, you were 2-1 as well, so you're 6-6, and Jeff was 1-2. He's 5-7 now. Jeff has his own. He's still recovering and everything like that.
Yeah, as Jen said, way to go, guys. We hope Jen is taking great care of her husband, Jeff. We can't wait to see him back. Hopefully he's back by Sunday, because I can't keep putting up with just Johnny alone. So if Jeff's watching, we love you. We hope you're feeling better. And I can't, we hope he's doing better and can focus on football, the important things in life.
Exactly. And now with the actual NFL picks that we had, Phil and I were 10-5. Jeff was 12-3. So he did well on that.
Lucky.
Yeah. So I'll start off with my picks. I have Denver +8 against the Patriots. Now, I know. But
it's the COVID. I stayed away from it because of the COVID thing.
Well, I have something with that. So if the game gets canceled because of the COVID thing, I'm going to go the Giants +9.5. So there's going to be a little bit of an outlier.
Gotcha.
I did that just in case.
I have a feeling with Gilmore now being positive, and they have a guy on their practice squad that's positive, it's going to – I stayed away from a couple games this week because of that.
Because of it. So
you look at Kansas City. Did you see the picture?
Yeah, Gilmore and
Patrick Mahomes right up close to to Gilmore. They say it's a certain amount of minutes you have to be close to catch it and all that other stuff and all. But I stayed away from that game too because of the potential risk factor there.
Yeah, he said he had a lapse in judgment. You commented on that.
Yeah, no comment. So you got
Denver +8. If there is no game, it's the Giants +9.5 against Dallas.
Gotcha.
I have Arizona -7. No Darnold. Jets are going with Flacco. The Jets are just bad. I think
Cardinals are so disappointing so far.
I know, but I just think that Arizona, they're going to get out of their funk. I just don't think the Jets are any good.
They're not.
No. And then the last one, I usually try to stay away from this, but I'm going Philly +7.
I usually
don't like pick my team, but I'm going to go Philly +7. Those are my
Hey,
3
I
locks.
picked them last week in the locks, and I'm going to pick them again. I'm going to start my picks off with the Eagles +7 also. There's no way that this is going to be a close game. We'll get into our final predictions in a moment, but Eagles +7, it's going to be a 1 to 3 point game either way it swings. These are two close teams. I definitely love the Eagles +7, and that if this week matches last week, that line's going to go up because last week it started during the show at +7. By Sunday night, it was up to +9.5. So I love the Eagles this week. If you can hold out, hoping it goes up. I mean, there's a chance it could go down, but you hold out, hope that it might go up. I love that. I got the Browns +1.5 over the Colts. The Browns are riding high after their victory over the Cowboys. They are a really good offensive team. It's a great matchup, honestly, against the Colts' really good defense. But they're at home and they're an underdog. I love home underdogs for teams that are at least semi-competitive. So I'm going the Browns. And then I'm going with the Seahawks because I pick them pretty much every week. The Seahawks -7 against the Vikings. The Vikings got lucky that Bill O'Brien had lost that team last week. They're not that good. The Seahawks will crush the Vikings this week. So I got them -7. But again, I wanted to pick the Chiefs game, but I held off on that just because of the potential risk factor that there might be a positive test. Do you have any locks there, Sam?
Yeah, I got some picks for this week. Tomorrow night we got the Bucks and the Bears. That Super Bowl 52 rematch between Brady and Foles. And I got the Bears covering +5.5. I think. I mean, Brady's gonna be without Goodwin tomorrow, and O.J. Howard and Leonard Fournette, and that's a good Chicago defense. I think that's gonna be a 3-point game. And then the Jags and the Texans. I've got the Jags +6.5. I think they could even win the money line. That's a bad Texan team.
Yeah, I actually like that one too. I thought about that one a lot there.
Yeah, and then I picked the Vikings and the Seahawks also, but I have the Vikings +7.5. I think that's going to be a shootout. And Seattle, they typically win by one possession week in and week out, no matter what.
No, I like the Seahawks there. We're just going to slam that down right now. That is a loser pick right there.
I was almost going to go Seattle the other way, -7.5. I was like, they're always.
I don't know where you got it. I got 7, and I got a 3.5 line on the Bears game, just so you know. I base everything off of FanDuel Sportsbook because that's where I place my bets. So
okay, I saw this on CBS's lines
earlier.
That was earlier today. Maybe they updated.
Yeah, they change. Those lines fluctuate all the time.
Right.
The only one I don't like is the Seahawks pick that you have there. So against me.
Phil, do you have any? I know we're after the locks. We talk about a little bit of fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna give you a little taste of what we're gonna talk about tomorrow night. Jason Sullivan, Josh Gamble, and myself, we do our fantasy and gambling show 8:30 on all the All About the Birds networks. It's more me asking them questions and them answering because they're a lot smarter than me. My fantasy picks have been awful this year. I am 3-1 in the All About the Birds fantasy league. Just throwing that out there.
2-2,
Johnny, what are you
last week?
What?
2-2. I won again.
All right, you're up to 2-2. All right, you're making an improvement. All right, so the things that we're going to touch on is my personal favorite stack of the week, which is not something that I can bet on yet because it involves the Chiefs. If the Chiefs play and everybody's healthy, I love the Chiefs this week. I love Mahomes. Anybody you can stack with him, whether you want to go, Hardman, Kelsey, Edwards, Hill, any stack with the Chiefs, I think it's a good play this week. And we're going to spend some time talking about Kenyon Drake and the Cardinals. Is it time to move on from Kenyon Drake as a lead back? I drafted him in the second round in one league. And I know Jeremy Bridges picked him in the first round of the All About the Birds League. A lot of people had him in that 8 to 15 range, and he is just a train wreck this year. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then a sneaky cheap stack that we're going to talk about, or I'm going to ask Jason Sullivan about tomorrow night, is Teddy Bridgewater and the Carolina Panthers against the vaunted Falcons defense.
With no secondary.
Who to play if you want to pick Bridgewater as a stack. We're going to talk about that tomorrow night. We're going to figure that all out tomorrow night. But they're my things I'm mulling around right now for fantasy-wise is Kenyon Drake and the Cardinals. What are they? Who are they? The Chiefs, if they play, if that's a great stack. And then my cheap stack, whether it's a smart idea or not, Teddy Bridgewater.
My one guy, if you want to bring it up, write it down. One guy I wanted to think about, as a cheap player to play, not a stack or anything, but a cheap player is Darius Slayton of the Giants against that Dallas secondary.
I have played Darius Slayton in daily fantasy 2 of the last 3 weeks, and he has stunk. Every time I pick him, he is awful.
So
I will ask. I'm writing it down right now. Slayton, ? Johnny, not my opinion.
But also, like I said, with the Fantasy and Gambling Show, definitely check it out. They have a really cool intro, got a new logo. So there's a lot of cool things happening there.
Oh, I forgot to download that. I got to work on that.
Well,
just like that, we're all done. I thought we weren't going to hit the hour mark. I thought we were going to go way over the hour mark tonight. And we're right there, 1 hour. We just got to wrap it up with our final score, game predictions, and why. Sam, you go first.
I don't want to be pessimistic here, but I just think the Eagles are overmatched this weekend. I really do. With that defensive front of the Steelers going against an experienced offensive line, I've got the Steelers winning 24-10.
Wow.
Yeah.
Only 10
I hope I'm wrong.
There.
Yeah, I hope I'm wrong there, but
I hope you're wrong too, because it's going to be a really rough post-game show if you're right on that one.
Go ahead, Phil.
Honey, you want me to go? All right. Well, I debated. I bounced back and forth. I have the same score in my mind, whether it's the Eagles win or it's a Steelers win. For some reason, I'm sitting at 21-20. I'm going to go Eagles. I'm just going to go the momentum from last week is going to carry over to this week. But either way, I just feel a 1-point game is coming this week. I'll go with the Eagles. I'll say that the momentum carries forward. I'll say that these young guys take step forwards. I'll say that the coaches will hear the talk. Doug Peterson heard our talk, not us personally. Well, maybe he heard us. I don't know. But he heard the talk that he wasn't aggressive enough. Carson heard the talk that he wasn't showing confidence in his guys. They heard the talk, and what they do the last 2 weeks, they started making progress. So now the goal is to hope that they hear the talk that, the right guys have to be played. Maybe they'll step off of Geary a little bit. They'll step off of Epps a little bit. They won't play Ortega-Whiteside much. I think they hear the cry. I think they see what needs to be done. They win 21-20, a close game. Hey, I'll even throw it out there, that Jake Elliott hits a game-winning field goal to win the game.
Couple things with my pick. Again, a close game. A couple things on the Steelers. They've played the Giants, the Broncos, the Texans.
Yep.
They haven't scored over 30 points in any of those games. Those teams are combined 1-11. They beat the Giants by 10. They beat the Broncos by 5. They beat the Texans by 7. Okay.
I wrote all those notes down, and I never got to them. They were just covered up the whole time. I had all that sitting right there, ready to go.
And even if you did, you wouldn't be able to read it.
Well, you said my handwriting wasn't as bad as I thought.
No, it wasn't that bad. But getting to the point of talking, I know the Steelers defense is very good, but don't discount the Eagles pass rush. The left tackle Villanueva is good, but he's also big. What do the Eagles have? Guys like Josh Sweat, Derek Barnett, quick off the edge. They can get pressure. My one prediction that I have is I think Derek Barnett gets 2 sacks on Sunday. So that's 2 things. I have the Eagles, pulling it out 27-23. I just think that with that bye week for the Steelers, an unplanned bye week may have kind of hurt them a little bit. And I understand it's extra rest, but sometimes it doesn't always go in your favor, especially when it's not something that's a planned thing. And I don't know. I feel the defense gets a lot of pressure. It just seems like when the Steelers play the Eagles, like back in 2016, they were undefeated, and the Eagles came out and they beat them when a lot of people didn't think it was going to happen. So I think Steelers they're a good team, but I think they're a little bit of a flawed 3-0. So I'm going the Eagles 27-23.
All right. So we got 2 against 1 that the Eagles win this week. I hope we're right and you're wrong, Sam. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Post-game shows are a lot of fun.
I was so close to picking against the Eagles last week, and I'm glad I didn't. I was pretty close on it last week. I said 27-21, 25-20. That's not too far off.
But what I want to do, I want to thank there's a lot of people we want to thank, especially Last Out Media. You can follow them at Last Out Media. We stream on their website. I think it's Fridays. I think also, don't forget Hemp Bombs.
I'm just trying. You keep talking. I'm just hawking products here. I'm trying to make us some money here. You keep talking.
At Heat Ratio Sports, at Athletes Hub. Of course, you can always follow All About the Birds on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, at AAT Birds, aatbirds.com. If you're interested in writing for us, send one of us a message. We're always looking for writers. Sam's one of our writers. Puts a lot of great content on the site. We love having him. We love his insight, everything that he brings. You can follow Sam at Steiner_Sam. You can follow Phil at Beard of Knowledge, myself at JohnnyU9322, at Jeff Warner at Jeff Warner NFL. We'll still give him a shout out even though he's not on.
He's on the pup list. Hopefully he comes off the pup list this weekend.
Yeah, maybe he can come off. We don't do no practice squad people, right? No,
we'll have to cut our practice squad this weekend if he's ready to come back.
The taxi squad.
Yeah, the taxi squad. Schwartz did call the practice squad the taxi squad today.
But as I said, we always want to give our thanks to all the people who support us and all the people who share, follow us. Every one of our contributors or anything. We just say thank you. We're not here without those people. And Phil doing his great CBD promotions.
Dude, I'm trying to make us money, bro.
No, it's okay. It's okay. And don't forget to check out if you want any new gear. I know Sam can show you. He picked up a shirt from the shop. Bad things happen in Philadelphia. So, we always end it with the two words, and it's Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.